welcome to another episode of Down and Dirty. And today we have with us Arti Gupta. Arti, you're the co-founder of StyleNook. I love the premise of StyleNook. It is a personalized stylist platform that leverages technology and human stylists to help women dress for success, however you define success, right? And celebration and occasion. So everything from Diwali wear to work wear and things in between, StyleNook has you covered. So I myself have taken the quiz. I need to move on to the next step beyond that because I'm so interested in the value proposition of this business that I wanted to bring Arti on to talk a little bit more about her experience with a project involving this company. Arti, you have a background with Savan, with Hopscotch. You've been doing online content and commerce for a very long time, and you bring those skills to StyleNook that you started with Kuntal. You also have done product marketing, and I can see the effect of that because with women who are in my social circle, they do know StyleNook and they are talking about StyleNook and they're posting on Instagram and tagging StyleNook. So that is the best kind of organic marketing, credibility, I guess, that you can get when that starts happening. So, Arti, welcome to the show. And we're excited to get down and dirty with you. And are you ready for what's coming up?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here, Tapsi. I'm really looking forward to this.
Fantastic. So let's just jump right in. And as we talk about a specific project, our listeners and our viewers are going to get a better sense of what StyleNook is about. So, what is that project or that idea that you want to share with everyone today?
I wanted to talk about the pilot we ran before we launched StyleNook. So as StyleNook was, being conceived, being ideated, being formulated as a product, my co-founder Kuntal and I wanted to first even test the waters and see, does this have legs? Does this have demand? Because at the end of the day, you can, make a project viable only if there is a market. And especially when you have an innovative idea, a new concept, you do not have a lot of history to fall back on. So you needed to get your own data. And I mean, often, businesses, companies, they do deep, analysis, focus group discussions, customer interviews to assess that opportunity. In our experience, both Kuntal and I have 20 plus years of experience across various technology companies. And honestly, that's never enough. At the end of the day, you need to kind of figure out who is the paying customer and will she will she or he, in our case, the customer is a she, but will she want to actually put her money down and say, okay, I am really going to, try this out. So
Yeah.
getting that basic proof of concept was something that we wanted to evaluate with our pilot. So I'm going to talk about that.
That's great. And I love that you have honed in on the fact that you have to understand your target audience, your customer, right? Because everything begins and ends there. So no matter how great an idea is, so what I would want you to do is tell us first about the idea behind StyleNook and
Sure.
then jump right into how did the focal point of understanding customer needs, how did that shape this project, this pilot project?
Absolutely. So Tapsi, I think, it came from a personal place as well. I mean, both Kuntal and I are women, we were in our early 40s at the time and have been busy with so many responsibilities, as you kind of go through life, women just start juggling so many balls. And, one big thing that you end up kind of compromising on is self, somewhere you lose sight of that. But fashion is also extremely exciting and meaningful, and it's one of those things that I was just not getting enough time for it. And so very often, it was like, okay, asking somebody, where do I go for this, where do I go for that, those recommendations, which is fantastic, but it's never complete. Also, as a shopping experience, I feel that there should be a little bit, life should be a little bit easier than browse, hunt,
I
hunt,
couldn't
hunt,
agree
hunt.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I love dressing up, which is not the same as me loving to kind of find a needle out of a haystack.
Yes.
uh and often then what you end up doing when it's time consuming and you may not have that kind of bandwidth, you make safe choices. you end up just kind of, saying, okay, this is tried, tested, safe. And so, yeah, sure. And that would still look great. I'm not saying that, that wouldn't, but, you're ready to experiment. You're open to trying out new stuff. You may just never find the ability to do that easily. So from a customer point of view, I mean, that was our pain point, saying, okay, how do I discover better things for myself? How do I kind of, limit, like, whatever, expand my search horizon beyond what is just, easily available, or this recommendation or that exhibition? How do I kind of, do that? From a business point of view, and again, both Kuntal and I come from e-commerce background, one of the biggest challenges that a catalog planner faces, a category planner faces, is assessing demand. How do you know what is going to sell? We have to base our understanding on the basis of past results, saying, okay, last season we sold this, we sold that. Look at, sell-through rates, look at, what kind of trends are happening in the market, look at some trend analysis reports. All of that is lovely, but, again, it's not information it's like all proxy information, and you're making some kind of guesstimates around it. Nobody really in fashion space can truly claim that, no, we know exactly what our customers want, because honestly, they don't. That channel is not, open. There is often very rich information that gets, lost in the ecosystem. For example, if you go into a store and you do have an on-floor, salesperson who's trying to support you and help you, and you ask a few questions, do you have this in a different color? Can I find something, a certain length? They do respond to those questions if they're helpful enough, but that information that you are actually giving to that business doesn't get captured. They do not recognize that customers walked into the store and they were looking for X. Since they did not find X, they ended up compromising on the Y and buying it. All they see in the report is that they sold Y. They just do not have an idea about the loss of opportunity if I had X, in production.
So you're aggregating demand also because you have a platform experience. Is that it? Like, people come on, and the more they ask, ask questions to your platform about what they want, the designs they want, the colors they care about, based on this profile, this quiz that even I've taken, the more informed your AI can get.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Understood.
And, people often, especially women, right, when we go shopping, we don't have a very clear idea that, oh, I want this red dress. Maybe you do because suppose you're kind of following a certain theme or something, then you might. But largely you go with a little bit of a broad, understanding that, okay, I want to check out some casuals.
Got it.
I want to check out some, like, resort wear because I have a holiday coming up. Now, that definition of resort wear is not very defined in your head. It's okay, let me go and see what's out there so that I can make a decision. So invariably, these concepts are a little vague in our own minds. And what our algorithms kind of do is take these vague concepts and start formulating them into a little bit more constructive direction.
Yeah.
And that happens at the back end. So what StyleNook does is our customers are given a very strong shopping assistance where they come in and they do a little bit of a quiz. That's how we find out about them. And on the basis of those responses, first level, recommendation happens through our algorithms. So we have almost 200 brands that we have relationships with. And from those brands, products are, scoured. Now, the thing is, on top of that, there is still a human stylist that comes in, because like I said, just because, there are certain things which are suitable for your taste preferences, your body shape, which is fantastic, that still doesn't make your outfit happen.
Yeah, no, that's what I like. I like it, the combination of technology and human intervention, because I think both create a much more personalized experience than just an efficient one, which is what.
And I say this in many on many forums, Tapsi, that if algorithms were really going to solve fashion, we wouldn't be facing a problem right now. We would just be,
That's true. That's true.
Because we have enough advancement in technology everywhere across the board that, if algorithms, like, you literally needed to open one page and see, okay, those are the 5 outfits that are absolutely perfect for you. But that doesn't work like that. We're not there yet.
So let's
Uh,
jump right into the pilot now. Okay, so we've understood we've not roughly, we've understood the premise behind what StyleNook does. But when you were starting out, you know this, yeah, like you and I were just talking before the show started. It involves a lot of development costs, right? Because you're building a tech platform at the end of the day. But what you wanted to do was test this out in the marketplace, with your desired target audience. So let's jump right into that. What were the kinds of um, uh, feedback loops that you used to even start to think about, okay, this is how we should test a pilot? Did you talk to people? Was it all just based on your experience? Did you do any research? Did you commission any research? Did you do surveys? Did you just read market research reports? What fed into the idea behind the pilot?
a lot of things and a little bit of everything that you mentioned. So yes, we did read a lot of reports. We did read a lot of, we checked out a lot of online businesses, how they've done, how they've gone through journeys. We definitely did a lot of customer interviews, potential customer interviews. So we picked certain segments and we, conducted focus groups. We did detailed interviews. So we looked at a few different segments. We looked at segments of, a certain geography.
Mm,
We looked at segments of certain education. We looked at segments of, just, professional status. Like we
right.
took like, certain organizations and thankfully, like, we had kind people who would introduce us to, their co-workers, and we were able to kind of do that. So we ran like quite a few focus groups of that nature. We walked into exhibitions, we walked into malls, we looked up like online, shopping experiences across the board as they were available. And we kind of, started kind of putting together our own, like it was a little bit of a broad scoped direction that started kind of narrowing down as we kind of went through our research. And our first hypothesis that became firmer and firmer as we were trying to test this out is that women in India, especially working women, were extremely time crunched, were also extremely interested in, the way they dressed up, because I mean they're also working, right? So every day they're kind of,
Right.
at work, but they also have a personal life, which very often is kind of, squeezing things in between that really busy life that she has, and she's not often able to find that time to hunt.
So I'm going to recap here a little bit. So you decided you want to do a pilot project. You had segments of audiences that you thought you wanted to target, women, types of women. You finally narrowed down on working women. You could have narrowed down on any segment. You chose to
Anything.
start. You have to start somewhere. Started with working women. And with working women, with this segment, you had a hypothesis that you wanted to test, right? Because doing an experiment or even doing a pilot project without a guiding star, like what are you trying to get out of it, is a futile exercise, because you can learn
Correct.
so much just by talking to working women about everything in their lives, right? And everything is worthy of another startup idea. So you had your hypothesis, and you went out there and you um, did something. You put a box, you put some products, you put some services in front of them, and you engaged them to understand their um, how much they'd be willing to pay. Now, I know we've not gone to this part and we're going to get into it right now. What did you actually put in front of them? But I just wanted to cue this up, saying you had a segment, you had a hypothesis, you also had lessons learned from your past experience. You also had interviews that you had done and other market reports and, assessments, your own experience that came into thinking about your starting point. Now that we've gotten past the inception of, okay, this is the idea, this is what we're going to run with and test out. Now let's talk about execution. Okay, so
Absolutely.
what happened then? So once you had this, what did you test out? And I want also details of how many people were doing this, what was the size of your team, and did you have a timeline attached to your pilot? How much time did you give yourselves? Were you burning cash on your own as you were trying to test this out? What was, how did that get operationalized?
Sure. So I think Kuntal and I both had willingness to put down our own money.
Hmm.
For the pilot, we wanted to keep it as, bare minimum as possible. In terms of team, we had an agency for just our creative work. And that was literally like, on a very, very small retainer, like, just to get out of the door. We had two part-timers with us. And there was Kuntal and I. So it was a really small team. I mean, yes, my driver got roped in to make deliveries. So he could be considered like, our delivery
Yes.
partner. But
All the
literally
helping
it
hands
was,
possible.
yes, absolutely. So that was our team structure. He was handling the logistics. Um,
I love it.
but that was our early team, so to say.
Got it.
Uh,
So coming back to the pilot then. So what you first put down a promise and said, if we did this, would you be interested? And if they said, yes, I'm interested, then what happened?
So the promise was literally going out in the form of an email
Hmm.
that would further get forwarded to within office networks, within company groups, within team networks, and it was literally a word of mouth kind of thing, saying, "Hey, Arti and Kuntal are trying testing out this idea. Would you like to be a part of this pilot? This is the promise." And there was a click to the form, the Survey Monkey form. And so whoever was interested went through the form and actually said that, yes, I am interested. And so once they were interested, we took them into the, and we didn't have a platform at that time, Tapsi. We literally had like, the construct in our heads, right? The platform was Pinterest and Excel sheets, and we did not have a single vendor relationship because we didn't want to invest our time, energy, first developing that out. So we literally had like access to, I remember talking to Mintra and getting like a very early, like, contract with them, but that was also very loose. But we were literally shopping off like, various platforms, online, offline. And our idea was to literally curate things for her based on who she was.
Yeah.
And once we curated, so the things to test out there was, were we getting it right? Yeah, were we kind of even hitting close to, her expectations, her sizing, were we getting it right? Huge one, right? Big one that we solve for. And today it's one of our strengths, a huge strength that we have, that we nail your fits. We absolutely get it like, right. I mean, it's in our DNA to make sure that you look fab in every outfit that we get for you. And a large part of it comes down to the fit, to the, cut. So were we getting that nailed down? And is she paying money for it? Because we were going to charge her. None of this was coming for free. She had to pay for those clothes. And so we sent this out. We got like almost 200 people signing up for it. So that gave us like the check on saying, okay, this was literally sent out within closed networks and groups, not broadly, promoted, not broadcast. We did not have a name for the business, right? We called ourselves Arti and Kuntal. Well, we called ourselves A&K.
Yeah.
Which stood for Arti and Kuntal. A very dear friend of mine who's extremely creative. She came up with this logo, which was A&K, like, and it was really easy to stencil it out. And to deliver our products, we actually bought cake boxes because they looked cool and they were like nice. So that was our branding. And but it looked neat. It looked cool. It wasn't, shabby. And that was the experience for the customer, that she was ultimately, getting recommended products, and she was having the ability to purchase and saying, oh my God, yeah, this is great. So we got almost 80 customers do transactions with us, monetary transactions. They were putting hard cash down. And that gave us the faith that, okay, all these things that we were testing for have some, legs to run with. So that it was post that we went through the exercise of figuring out our branding, incorporating a company. We hadn't even incorporated a company before that.
That is great, but that is the true ethos of testing an idea in the marketplace before you invest a cent into development work, into the big expenses, team building, product costs, right? Branding, even branding costs money, right? To hire to help with. So how long did this pilot take you?
About 4 months.
4 months. And during this 4 months time, did you guys
5 months, I would say.
So had you and Kuntal both quit your jobs and you were doing this full time, and was this completely bootstrapped at this point?
Yes, we had both quit our jobs. We were doing this full time. See, we went into this not with the idea of pottering around. I mean, both of us were very clear that in our careers, the next thing we wanted to do was to have like, a business of our own. That was actually the foundation of our partnership also coming together. Both of us were founders who weren't like saying, okay, let me moonlight on the side and see if this is worth quitting my day job for. We'd both been in the startup ecosystem. Like I said, it's one of those things of, starting something in your 40s. By that time, you're quite clear in your head. And so we wanted to kind of, we were quite committed. So we had both quit our jobs. But what we did not want to do is go and like, invest our time in something that may not have, an opportunity. And then you waste your time and say, okay, now we are back to the drawing board and we need to test out a new idea.
Got
So
it.
I mean, that was the whole purpose of the pilot.
Got it. And
Uh,
okay, so you funded this yourself for 4 months, for your small ad hoc team of helpers, with you. And uh, once you started putting this out and started getting orders, you said some of your biggest criteria or metric of judging the success of this pilot was cash put down, right? It was cold cash that people were putting down, which you were seeing. You had 200 women who had signed up, and I'm assuming, did everyone convert, or did 50%?
no, like I said, I think we ended up fulfilling about 80
80,
of those
fine. So you had
orders.
80, so a little less than 50% converted, but that gave you the confidence that there is a need here. As long as we can more and more hone down, and also a combination of good marketing, we might be able to, we will be able to scale this number. So you had your cash as one evaluation metric, right?
Yes.
Were there other things that you were tracking?
Absolutely. So the
Yeah.
conversion factors, right? Like for 200 people to sign up, this must have gone in front of like maybe 1,000 people.
Okay, so
So a 20% form
20%.
fill rate was a pretty healthy rate for us. Again, Kuntal and I, because we both came from like, the tech space, we actually had these benchmark metrics in mind.
Yes.
So that was actually a very healthy form fill. Again, like you said, almost 40%, then converting into customers. Again, a really healthy, conversion metric. We saw an average order value of about 3,500 rupees, which is again a very healthy metric. And honestly, even after 5 years, we've been able to continue that metric.
That's amazing.
So that's the powerful part, because that's the whole thing about anything that you do online. There are costs on fulfillment, whether it's the credit card fee or the logistics cost, the packaging. If there are returns, then you also have to bake in the return cost. All of that, if you consider, it's actually unviable to have sales below 1,500 rupees. I mean, and then
I just learned something new here. Like, I didn't know that.
And I don't even bring in the marketing cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless, of course, you're selling something where you're manufacturing it for like 20 rupees and selling it for 1,000, where you have just a really like fantastic margin, which often happens, for example, in beauty products, right? So beauty is a fabulous space.
Yeah.
Apparel doesn't work on those kinds of margins. There are margins for sure, but not like, this kind of crazy margin. So your margin needs to cover your, costs of fulfillment. Like I said, I'm not even bringing in the cost of marketing.
Right. But still, the fact that you're getting 3,000, even if you're saying 1,500 is a bare minimum, you have a good buffer there, right? Like,
you have a good buffer.
Right. So that
have a
gives you the
decent buffer.
confidence. Right.
And I think the largest part, right, which was what I learned at Hopscotch, the most. Kuntal had learned that also at Modcloth, which is the last fashion tech startup that she had worked at in the Valley. I think the biggest driver for success of any online, e-commerce platform is retention, because customer acquisition is difficult, expensive, and painful. But it's part of the journey. It's a given.
Yeah.
But if you have to keep spending money to keep bringing new customers again and again and again, that's when it again starts getting unviable. But if you have a business model where retention is either just going to happen out of the love for the business, or it's baked into the concept. And in our case, we chose to bake it into the concept, because for us, when you do the quiz, it's a one-time quiz. You don't have to do it again and again. Now think about it. The first time you try, you may have concerns, reservation, trepidation, etc., and you might just kind of take your time. And that's a challenge. Honestly, I wish we didn't have that, but we do have it. Once she crosses that barrier, and the first experience, even if the first experience is not great, you know that the next time is much easier. I don't have to do the form again. I don't have to do anything new. I just have to say, hey, this is what I was looking for. Once you start kind of, zoning in, right, it just gets into this beautiful mode of like, automation.
That's right. And you're also tapping into I mean, you're in such an amazing category, like this is it's going to be fed more and more with our egos, our desires to look better, our desires to grow into our clothes, into new styles. Like, the demand is never ending. Like you said, if you've cracked the code in hooking people in once and convincing them that this is worth giving a second shot to. So
Yes.
lifetime value of a customer became pretty important for you guys to judge the success and the profitability of your company. So, but
Yes.
were you able to get that from a pilot?
Not really, because
Right.
we didn't run the pilot long enough to have a lifetime
Exactly.
value
Right.
assessment.
Right.
I think the simple thing was that, okay, the same customer that we've done a fulfillment for, is she willing to go through it again? Is she doing this on a lark? And she's like, okay, something I tried and I don't think I'll be doing this again, versus, hey, this was cool. Can I try it? Yeah, can I
So
have one more round?
did you just ask them? So I mean, someone bought something. Did you just say, "Hey, what was your experience like? Would you, if we offered this to you again, would you
Absolutely,
consider this?"
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, okay, understood. So, all right. So we had your conversion ratios. You had these benchmarks in mind that came from your own industry experience about what to expect. You also had, just understanding, or asking people about willingness to return for a second purchase, and you got that clarity. And of course, you had the actual hard, cold cash that was laid down. That was the biggest metric that, okay, this can happen and people are going to pay money for it. So let's do a little bit of introspection. What were your challenges while implementing this pilot?
Uh, I think just, yeah, running on, like, a bare minimum team, that
Mm,
was certainly a challenge.
yeah.
Uh, Honestly, Tapsi, again, like, in terms of challenges, some of the things we foresaw and we kind of, put some solutions down for it. So I don't think we faced any challenges per se on the pilot. The pilot was actually quite, like, interesting and smooth in that sense. It ran fast. It gave us, like, enough data.
Okay.
It gave us the confidence to saying, okay, this business plan is worth fleshing out,
Right.
is worth now, finding all the pieces to kind of pull it together in terms of tech, in terms of
Yeah.
funding, in terms of, team.
Hmm.
I don't think the pilot challenged us terribly on that front. I would actually love to talk about the challenges in incorporating the company and getting off the ground. That was actually far more challenging.
um okay, so yes, we can talk about that, but let me ask you one more question before we talk about the challenge of getting a company set up, which is, if someone's listening to this and they have an idea, they want to take it to market, but hearing you talk, they're convinced that they need to do a small pilot themselves and in its minimum form possible, right? With gig boxes and, driver to help out with logistics, right? What would be some advice that you would give them as they are trying to roadmap, implementing a pilot? Anything
Yeah.
specific that comes to mind?
Yes, absolutely. So I think a couple of things, right? And I'll say this to a lot of founders who I have constantly engaged with and networked with, and a lot of them are women founders. Uh, don't get very deeply married to an idea before, it has had, and don't feel upset if, it's not panning out. It's okay. I mean, you can always pivot and do something else. That's fine. We've also had our share of pivots post, that early pilot, right? It's not like StyleNook is in the exact same
So another
form.
episode, basically, Arti. Like
Yes.
to talk about the okay,
Definitely.
sorry.
So
Yes.
don't get too attached to the idea. Don't get too attached to the concept. Definitely be ready for getting information and data that you weren't expecting to see.
Hmm.
Be prepared for that, and that's actually a great thing. That is one of the reasons why you run these pilots or tests, and test and learn. I think that kind of is something that needs to get into your DNA. When it comes to any tech business, I specifically want to speak about this because I see this so often. A lot of founders have a very clear idea of how they want the site to look.
Hmm.
How the site looks is nothing on how the business is run.
Hmm.
And very often they go, especially non-tech founders, right? They go looking for a tech partner saying, I have a very clear vision and I just need them to implement this. And they think that, okay, I want this color, I want this button here, I want this. Honestly, that's not what you want.
Hmm.
When you look at a tech partner, you want somebody who will be able to tease out the business process flows from you.
Hmm.
And build that into your product flows. Somebody who should be able to work with build or buy. Most tech partners, especially if you outsource tech, right, will want to build something. I mean, it's in their
Yeah.
nature. It's in the techie's
Yeah.
nature saying, yeah, this is easier to build versus we'll have to kind of modify a lot of things to take an existing product tool and like, but not only does that take time and money, but you have less flexibility when you have homegrown product. Then for any small change, you need to keep going back to your tech partner saying, "Ye change kar do." One of the reasons we worked when we launched, we started like working with Typeform as our data collector. We still did not build our own form, our own survey. Was simply because we see the responses and we have some learning saying, okay, this question isn't really working too well with our customers. They're not able to give us rich enough responses to this one, and I want to tweak it. We didn't have to sit and rewrite code.
Right. So use existing resources out there, right? At least as you're starting out, right? Till you're absolutely confident that this is working like a well-oiled machine, and then you can invest at a later stage.
And do not get over-invested in the front end. Do not get over-invested in your colors and your logo and your, invest in it. I mean, of course, it's your, passion project if it's your, but honestly, that's not really what's important in building out. Think about the process flows, and especially like I say this specifically to a lot of non-tech founders with whom I've often, like, because Kuntal and I run a tech business, we often get reached out to for some mentoring, advice, etc. And one of the most common characteristics I see is this over investment in the site design. And it matters a lot, but it is honestly like no site, good looking site, if it didn't function well, is going to be worth it. And do not over invest in that.
And for anyone who is watched or heard this podcast so far, you know that the first thing that Arti and Kuntal did was first go test the idea, test the business process, understand the concept, understand the TG, the target group, right? That you're looking to reach out to before you do anything with branding. I mean, you just had a friend, right? A and K, and that was good enough, right? To get the ball rolling. So great. Thank you for those words of advice for anyone who is considering doing this. And as long as the value proposition, it seems, is intact, which means you're really solving a need for a problem faced by your target audience, which in this case is, I don't know what to buy. There's so much out there. I don't have the time, but I have the inclination to wear good clothes, and you solve for that. And everything else will just follow, right? The teams will get built. You'll think about the scalable parts, you'll put in money towards dev, and that's all going to come. So I have the last section right now called rapid fire. Are you ready for it? Okay. 4 questions. Very simple.
Only 4 scaring me.
No, only 4 questions. Okay, first question. A person who inspires you. Who is a person who inspires you?
Rafa Nadal.
Okay. Tell me a book or a podcast that you're into right now.
I keep reading Lean Startup over and over again, and I've been reading it for years, and every time I read, I get something new out of it.
Fantastic. Do you have a favorite brand?
I have many favorite brands. Omega.
Okay. I'm getting a very sporty vibe from you, by the way. And last question, what do you wish you had done when you were 20?
Taken more risks.
Okay. All right. I've heard that one before. So I think it's becoming more of a universal thing. People saying that I should have waved from the straight path a little more.
And I did, but I wish, I'd done it with more gumption, more conviction, had less self-doubt.
Arti, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. And I'll wait for you to try us out next.
Yes, I know. It is on my list too. I've done the quiz. I have to now just move on to the next step.
You're just one step away.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.